Hey, I'm Alex, and welcome to Hallucination. If you love true horror stories, consider subscribing. It really helps the channel grow. The stories you'll hear are shared by our audience from Reddit, and to keep their original essence, I read them exactly as they were written. Before we begin, let me know in the comments, where in the world are you listening from? Now let's dive into the darkness. One morning last November, I awoke in an unfamiliar bedroom. Its walls were light gray. The room itself was smaller, and there was no dresser at the foot of the bed. Hanging on the wall in front of me was a huge portrait of a man with black hair and a clean-shaven face who looked as young as 30. To the left of the bed there was a black nightstand with a lamp. There was nothing to the right. The blinds on the window were up, and all I could see from the bed were the tips of trees. I got up, then peeked out the window to see a vast forest with tons of hills and overall just trees. There was nothing indicating exactly where I was. Was I still in Jersey? I didn't recognize this area at all. Why was I here? I couldn't recall visiting anybody the previous night, and no family gatherings were taking place. I walked over to the door, then pulled the handle. The door clicked as it opened and revealed a hallway too long to see the end of, white walls lined with white doors. It felt like a hotel, but hotel rooms aren't as tiny as the bedroom I was in. I looked to my right to see the same thing. Then I looked to my left. Same thing. I reached into my pocket for my phone, but I couldn't feel it. I reached into my other pockets. No phone or anything. One of the doors clicked open. I peeked out and saw a man with a wrinkled face and white hair walking in my direction. He made an intense level of eye contact with me, like he was staring into my soul. "Hey, get back into your room and stay there," he told me. What was this man expecting from me in this situation? I had to ask, where am I? "Just stay in your room." "I don't know where I am. Can you tell me?" "You're in your room." What kind of ass was he? The man walked over to me, gesturing for me to get back into the room. I backed in. Then the man shut the door. I was kidnapped by someone, or some group of people. I'm not sure how. I'm not even sure how I didn't wake up during said kidnapping. What did they do to me? I checked everything I could for evidence, but found nothing. I had to find out where I was, and why, and how too. It had to have been hours, sitting on the edge of the bed, pacing around by the door, wondering what was about to happen to me. My hands were cold and shaky. I wanted to take my mind off of this by thinking about stuff that interested me, but I couldn't do such for long without anxious thoughts distracting me. As the sun set, that creepy man came back in with my phone in his left hand. He tossed it onto the bed, then shut the door without saying a word. I grabbed the phone, then started it up. Now, the first thing on my mind was to call the police. Did they not know I'd do that? Well, of course they did, as the phone and text apps crashed each time I attempted to get them open. I tapped Google. It opened, but gave me an error page. I'm unsure as to why they even gave me my phone back in the first place. Whatever, I laid back down, then eventually fell asleep. I woke up sometime in the middle of the night to a hum coming from somewhere outside. I got up from my bed, then took a peek through the blinds. A bright white orb flew by. It was followed by a red orb at a higher altitude, then a yellow one, then another white one. I took my phone out, hoping I could record the things, but as I filmed, no more flew by. The humming stopped, leaving a dead silence. I stopped recording, then played the video back. I got the humming at least. The next morning, I had just woken up when the man walked in and told me to come with him. I looked at him with heavy, half-open eyes. I just woke up. The man walked over and slapped me across the forehead, then took my hand and pulled me off the bed. My heart sank. Great. What was I expecting? What the hell did he want? I guess I must follow him. I followed the man through the long hallway. I'm not kidding. It took a minute to get to a point where I could make out the end of it. After some more walking, we reached two double doors, guarded by two men in dark tactical gear. They opened up the doors for us. The room I stepped into was huge, filled with people sitting at round tables. Pictures of more unknown people, young and old, lined the walls. As I stepped in, everyone went silent and glanced at me. In no time, these glances turned into penetrating stares. I looked at the stage in front of me. It was adorned by a magenta carpet. Those damn staring eyes, though. Chills ran down my spine as I climbed up the steps. The man walked up to the microphone while I stuck to his left. As I stopped beside him, I looked at the crowd. The stares, the silence. It was off. Why was I so important? Why did I need to be here? I don't want to be here. The man took the mic, then began speaking in a language I didn't recognize. It sounded like a mix of languages I did know. Korean, French, and some English too. It was like I could both understand and not understand the words. Whatever he said, it broke the silence in the crowd because they all applauded and cheered. The man spoke again for a minute. Then the lights dimmed. The man leaned in and whispered into my ear, in English, "Turn and look. Lay down so you can be strapped." I turned to see two black metal tables. On the leftmost table was a set of 3 belt straps. On the rightmost was a white bowl. The man walked me over to the leftmost table. I laid down in the spot I was instructed to. Then the man strapped me in. One strap went over my legs, the second over my hips, and the third over my chest. The straps were tight to the point of discomfort, but that wasn't the worst part. The man walked over to the table adjacent to mine, picked up the round white helmet, then placed it on his head. He then grabbed a small white remote, then laid on his back across the table. He lifted his head, then mine followed suit. At first I thought it was an odd twitch. Then he laid his head back down, and mine followed. He repeatedly moved his head up and down. Mine followed each time. He had complete control over me. How was he doing this? Since when have we had that kind of technology? There wasn't even a helmet on my head. The crowd applauded. Was this the first time they were seeing this? The man got off the table, my body matching his movements, and stood on his feet. It felt so weird. Not even like I was twitching. I was just moving along with zero control over myself. The audience continued their applause and cheer. It may have not seemed so bad in theory, but what happened next is what freaked me out. The man spoke his language again. Then 2 girls about the same height as me, one brunette and the other blonde, rolled a square glass tank of water in front of me. They both looked into my eyes, smiling. The man took 3 steps forward, including one big one that had me dipping into the water. I was sat down in the water. In seconds, I felt a burning on my skin. It got intense. I tried to do so much as flinch. I wanted out of it, but I couldn't move at all, not even a pinky. The burning became hell, like 100 knives piercing the area below my chest. I became lightheaded. Both girls put their hands on my head, then pushed it forward into the water. Pain hit every bit of my face. The girls let go, then my head jolted back up. Eventually, I lost consciousness. I woke up in that bed again in the middle of the night. It took a couple seconds, but I recalled the excruciating pain from I wasn't sure how much time earlier. Then my stomach sank. Hopefully I wasn't gonna go through that shit ever again. I had to get out of this place before something like it did. I got up, bones aching, hopping off my bed and gunning for the door with all the might I had left. The handle wouldn't budge. I went over to the window, unlocked the thing, then pushed it up. There was a net, so I clawed at it. It only took me a moment to put a hole in it. I tore the net up until there was a big enough hole for me to climb through. I poked my head out. It was too dark to see anything, but I started climbing out. Then I recalled how high up I was. I was above the trees. I could die if I jumped. My stomach sank further. How the hell was I going to get out of this place? Then I heard a male voice coming from the next window to my right. Someone tried that and died. I shook. "What? Who are you?" "I woke up here and have no idea why," he said. "You too? Do you understand what those people out there are saying?" I asked. "No, it's gibberish to me," he said. "Have you been put on a table A and controlled by one of them?" I asked. Nick sighed. "Yes. I've never fainted from searing pain before." "Do you know where we are?" I asked. "No," he said. One of my friends claimed he knew but couldn't find the words to explain it. All his words came out muffled. "Where is he now?" I asked. "He's the somebody who jumped from his window," he said. "It's just been a strange day or two," I said. "Maybe it's all done now, and I'll be let back home." "I've been here for weeks," he said. My heart dropped. "What?" "I'm sorry you're not getting out of here," he said. "What's your name?" I asked. Nick, he said. You. Cole, I said. I probably won't be able to sleep now as if I could a minute ago. The next morning, my mind was numb. How long was I going to be here? Months? Years? The next day, nothing of note happened. I was in the room all day, given breakfast, lunch, then dinner. The food here tasted great, but I couldn't make out what it was. It resembled food I was familiar with, but didn't quite match, appearance-wise. That night, Nick and I had another discussion at our windows. This time, Nick was hungry for action. We need to get one of their phones and see if they use anything that could tell us where we are, he said. We can get one by strangling one of the dudes in the bathroom. I've never strangled anyone before, I said. You won't need to, Nick said. I'll go in when I hear somebody walk in, then I'll press the bathroom button. I'll go in, get the dude to open his stall, kick him, then strangle him. Now, anytime I've seen any of these people use a phone, they use the finger scanner instead of punching in a password. I'll use the dude's finger to unlock the phone, record a video of me going through it, then I'll hum to myself. That'll be your qued. Press the bathroom button, and when I hear your door, I'll set the phone down on the dude. I'll walk out, then you can go in and find him in his stall. Record yourself going through his phone. After that, don't worry about the man. Make it look like he had fallen asleep. There's no way we'd convince anyone that they'd just fallen asleep, I said. I don't care if we fail, I just want answers, Nick said. Besides, there are no security cameras in the stalls. I'll just roll under into the next one and you know. Couldn't one of us do this on our own? I asked. I need a friend to do something with, Nick said. So couldn't we just take his phone? I asked. They'd track it down, Nick said. We would get caught doing this whole thing, I said. Just as long as you do your thing before they check up on the dude, you'll be good, Nick said. An hour later, we started the mission. I listened as Nick Sepp's door was opened. I heard his footsteps, then silence. A moment later, he started humming. I hit the button. My door was opened by the blonde man from the event. He stood over me. I walked out of the room, jumping as the man put his hand on my upper back. The man stuck to my left as he walked me to the bathroom. Nick came and walked by from the opposite direction. I tried to breathe as slowly and quietly as possible. Once I was in the bathroom, I sped right into one of the stalls. As I noticed the unconscious man's phone lying on the back of the toilet, I pulled my phone out, opened the camera app, hit record, then grabbing the man's phone. I recorded quite a bit, filming myself going through the man's phone. The apps on the phone had 3D graphics of various shapes and symbols. Some logos were animated. Bouncy balls, spinning wheels. The names of the apps were symbols as well. Some of them vaguely looked like cursive Roman numerals. I tapped on each of the apps. One of them brought me to a photo sharing app like Instagram, another to what looks like a search engine, while one of the apps on the bottom took me to an aerial view of a wide white building on a ridge. I tapped one of the little symbols on the top right. There was a very quick zoom out to what was clearly a map of a world. There were 2 big green blotches around the center, and some more green along the bottom, all surrounded by blue. There was a dotted equatorial line along the middle. I couldn't make out any of the continents as any I knew. I closed the app, then continued to go through the others. Eventually I stopped recording, slid my phone back into my right pocket. Then I had a thought. If I can't take the man's phone as evidence, why not a strand of his hair? I pulled a strand from his head, then stuffed it in my pocket. I placed the man's phone face down on the tiled floor, then sped out of the bathroom. That night I played the recording for Nick, doing my best to ignore the gusts of chilly night wind hitting my face. He squinted as he watched the recording from his window. I'm just confused, I said. Did that man have a fantasy world map on his phone that this building is a part of? Or was that telepath technology suggesting something else? I don't know, man. Nick said. I just hope I can get out of here and go home. I miss the warmth of familiarity. If I do, I'm going to hug my sister and keep learning how to play the guitar. I felt warm hearing that. A warmth I hadn't felt in a while. I just wanted familiarity, as well as my friends, family, town, and soothing music. I wasn't spending another minute here, let alone 3 weeks. Who are the freaks running this place? Where even is this place? What was up with the technology here? Why was I dunked into a tank of searing pain? And the truth would drive me to suicide. I wanted out, and I wanted to out alive. But how was I going to do that? I'd probably be tortured if I tried. Speaking of tortured, for a few nights. I called out to Nick from my window, but he didn't answer. He had to have been figured out. He knocked one of those men unconscious, so who knows what they would do to him. Once night, he answered to his name being called. I asked him about the past few nights. He told me he didn't want to talk about it. There was a shakiness in his voice when he spoke. 3 weeks into my stay, I was getting used to the routine. Wake up wondering why I'm here, eat the breakfast resembling waffles handed to me on a tray, and go into that auditorium to watch high-quality videos of people being operated on. These videos were easy for me to stomach, and I started to find the human body a little interesting, despite my confusion as to why I was being shown these videos in the first place. 2 months into my stay, the routine continued. I had to do some more of those stage performances. Those fucking stage performances. That same man with that same helmet put me through everything. I was made to eat 50 insects. Chills ran down my spine when I saw that plate. None of the insects even looked like they were from Earth. Some were long like centipedes, but larger than normal and had a series of mini spikes up and down their backs. Some of the insects were round and looked blurry, while others were brown and shaped like stars. I shivered right down to my soul, each bite, each swallow. But hey, I wasn't in pain, although I wanted to learn how to willfully slip into unconsciousness. I felt like puking when the abnormal centipede went into my mouth. I teared up as its spikes grazes into my gums. Then, as I swallowed it, I shuddered harder than ever. I did my best to move even a tiny bit, but no amount of fear broke the mind control. I also noticed over time, my phone's clock became more inaccurate to the time of day, at first by an hour, then by 2, and so on. I didn't care to change it though. It was the least of my worries. But those fucking stage showcases. Some more of the things I was mind controlled into doing were eating food to the point my body couldn't take it, and I had to barf it up, sit in sleep-deprived positions overnight, watch videos of people being attacked by animals, watch surprisingly high-quality videos of the 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami, people being blown up on battlefields, 9/11s, along with people dying in a mall disaster. I couldn't tell if I was being toyed with or tested on in some way. It was hell, to say the least. 4 months in, I was numb. I had been forced to face my worst phobias to the point where I stopped caring about them. I had watched every video of every tragedy from the past 30 years, along with some tragedies I somehow never heard of. Too bad the pain still hurt. Cuts, fucking burns, the liquid. I'm not going into any more detail then. That it was stuff I would never wish on anyone, ever. After the burns in particular, once I got back to my room, my guts were in a dark pit. I ran up to the window, once again wondering if I could survive a fall. Maybe if I did something differently. No, I'd be captured. I took my index nail, then scratched a message into the glass. Help, they're burning and cutting us. I told Nick to do the same thing, but he revealed, with his pale face and bags under his eyes, he had scratched a very similar message into his room's window weeks ago. At some point, I started getting this slight pain on the side of my head. These sadists probably did something screwed up while I was asleep one night. Fuck this place. I was sure nothing would change, until sometime that night when I woke to a blinding light. I covered my eyes. Within a moment, it was gone, and everything was dark. What the hell was that about? Just another weird thing about this place? I hadn't experienced that before. Anyway, it's still night, so I need to try to get back to sleep. As I shut my eyes, a loud bang rocked the building. Everything in the room shook. This was followed by another bang. Then, another. An alarm went off. I sat up. I heard a series of footsteps. They got louder and louder until my door was busted off its hinges. At least that's what it sounded like. It was nearly pitch dark. 2 figures with a faint green glow in their eyes, or goggles, barged in. "We are here to rescue you," one of them said. I understood them, and this was my way out. Finally, they both walked up to me, then grabbed me by the arms. I was walked out of the room as gunshots rang in the distance. The lights in the place flickered on and off a couple times as I was ushered along the hallway leading away from my room. A door clicked, then a few deep growls sent chills down my spine. I had never heard those here. A fucking animal jumped at me, knocking me over. A sharp pain hit my arm as one of the beasts bit me. It felt like its teeth moved independently from its mouth. A couple of nearby gunshots deafened me. I kicked at the beast and held its mouth shut until it grunted and stopped moving. I got up as the gunshots stopped, but there was another deep growl behind me. I ran through the dark, heart in my stomach. There was a light shining out of the auditorium as I got close to the double doors. Two tall and wide humanoid silhouettes busted through them, only to be shot down by three silhouetted people behind them. It was too dark to tell who my savior was. I felt along the wall for the bathroom door, ducking right in as I found it. By habit, I hit the light switch, but no lights came on. I froze as I heard distant screams. God knows what was happening over there. My hands were cold. I was shaking. There was hope, but who would reach me first? There was nowhere to hide. As the door squeaked open, my heart sank. All I heard was masculine sobbing. I wanted to be a fearless hero, but I was caught up in a loud, terrifying battle in a context I still didn't understand. I jolted as a loud bang came from the direction of the auditorium. Then there was another closer bang. Then another, even closer. My stomach churned. I grabbed the sobbing man in the dark, then used my left hand to guide me out of the bathroom. I sped along the dark hallway, away from the auditorium. The lights flickered on for another second, and I saw 20 feet away from me, the man with white hair, that abusive, mind-controlling man. He was standing still, facing me. I shook, but then his chest exploded in a red mist. In the dark, footsteps raced down the hallway again, in the direction of the sobbing man, and I ducked back into the bathroom, breathing heavy. The sobbing man was by my side. I jolted as the doors were pushed open. Gunshots rang out. The room lit up, with each flash revealing another one of the ensuing men being taken out. Suddenly, time felt like it was slowing down. The sounds of explosions, gunshots, and screams were muffled. I woke up sometime later, sitting alone in a dimly lit bedroom. Another one I couldn't recognize. I could hear the sound of boots on the ground. They were getting louder and louder. I crawled under the bed, then listened as the boots got louder, then stopped. My breaths were heavier than ever. Something just take me out of this nightmare. A bright white light blinded me. Within seconds, I lost consciousness. Sometime later, I woke up lying back against a chair in a hospital's waiting room. Some others were there with me, although I couldn't recognize them. The air had its normal smell again. I noticed the TV was playing CNN. Finally, some familiarity. I checked my upper arm. It was bruised, but stitched up. A few moments of sitting go by before a doctor calls my name. I'm brought into a small room with a table in the center. A man in a suit is sitting at this table, looking me dead in the eyes. "Take a seat," he said. I sit across from him, then he asks me about the past 4 months. I answer all his questions. Then he tells me this: "You may not speak with any individual but me regarding your experience. I will keep in contact with you. When you reunite with your loved ones or teachers, tell them you were kidnapped and do not wish to speak." As I left the hospital, I reached into my pocket and pulled out the hair I picked off of that bathroom man's head. I stuffed it back in, hoping I could use it to prove something someday. Once I got home, my mom hugged me tight, tears running down her face. I unlocked my phone to several messages from friends. I was relieved, ecstatic to be around people I love. People who wouldn't hurt me. Nick was good, don't get me wrong. I hope to life he's okay and makes it out of that place alive. He recommended a singer named Badubi to me. I feel the need to listen to her as a way to remember him. He had a habit of humming to himself. At times I could hear it from the room I was in. I hummed the melodies into Google's Hum to Search feature and was able to get the titles and artists of some of them. Badubi, Fog Lake, Noah Kahan. I've got some listening to do. One other thing I'm curious about is how Nick and I got away with speaking to each other from our windows. I still really don't know what to make of the whole thing. I'm running with the belief they were running tests on us, which would explain the torture they put us through. But why did they need to test on us? After a night of barely being able to sleep, I returned to school. I returned to my friends, my teachers. Although the unfamiliar setting scared me at first, I I've realized it wasn't the setting I needed to worry about. It was the people in it. I want to find out where I was for those months. I want to know why the world map was so off. Was I really taken to another world? I don't want to become a conspiracy theorist and believe such a thing. But where was I? There were good people in that unfamiliar setting too, of course. But at least it was over. Well, I thought it was. At lunch, just hours later, I was walking to the washroom when my classmate Emily Rodriguez, a girl about my height with black hair and glasses, who's barely ever spoken to me, was about to pass me by from the opposite direction when she looked into my eyes and smiled. "Hey, Cole. Hopefully Nick found his way out of that building you were trapped in for 4 months. At least I know that I know more about you than you'll ever know." That's it for tonight's stories, but the nightmares never end. If you enjoyed these chilling tales, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you never miss a new upload. Got a scary experience of your own? Share it in the comments. I just might feature it in a future video. Until next time, stay safe, stay curious, and remember some things are scarier than they seem in the dark.